Wearing the same shirt as last week, but this time it's clean. This is Told Someone. First question is from Joe Freddy. Will there be cake? Well, if I did that, if I answered that question, it would be spoilers because, if I have cake and it's supposed to be a surprise, then where's the surprise in the cake? So I can't tell you whether there is cake or not because it would be a surprise. Next question is from 72 Day Star. Is this the question answering place? This isn't the question answering place. This is a question answering place. Down there is the question asking place. You can answer your questions at any time down there as long as this video is up here where the questions will get answered next week. The question answering time would be this time next week. But it's not this time next week, it's this time this week in my time, so it's the question answering time for me. Next question is from Dungeon Headman. How far can you walk into the woods? Well, of course, it would depend on which woods you're talking about, because, the woods are burning at the moment in a lot of Australia. The woods I was in weren't on fire. But I was driving through those woods, so I wasn't walking through those woods. I was doing it today, but those weren't on fire. The bits that were on fire, I wasn't in because, as you can see, I'm not on fire. Now, depending on how far into the woods I go, it depends on how far off the beaten track I actually go. And I'm going pretty far into the woods now, only metaphorically though, because I'm going so far into the woods, I'm not actually answering the question. Next question is from Fritz. What is better, the football everyone else has or the American one? Well, the football everyone else has is soccer, and sometimes you can get thrilling 0-0 draws, which is great, apparently, if you like that sort of thing. And with the American football, you get a whole bunch of really big people colliding with each other and getting long-term brain damage. And that's entertaining. That's really entertaining, apparently. What we have in Australia is grown men colliding with each other without any padding on and going all the way up into the air, coming down to the ground and wrecking their knees. Now, that's a sport! Next question is from Ken Lee. No, this is the question. Neil Diamond, porcupine pie. That's not a question. I don't know what that is regarding, but he put the link to Neil Diamond, porcupine pie for some reason. Don't ask me why. I am not in last week, so I don't get the reference. Jonathan Stern asks, if alone is alone and not alive, is alive alive and not alone? Well, of course, if I was alone and alive, which I am because nobody else is in the car, then I am alive but alone. But if I was alive and not alone, well, I probably there'd be twice as much life in here. See, if there was somebody else in here, which there is not. I'm talking to you, empty seat. Anyway, in that case, they're two different things that can be interrelated or might not be. I mean, but most of the dead people are in cemeteries and they're with somebody. In fact, a lot of the time they are like they get dug up and the remains go somewhere else, and they're all commingled together, like in an ossuary, and that is when you are not alone and not alive, because all of your bones and remains and all that sort of stuff is mixed together and going back to the soil and stuff. Next question is Kwame River. How can I measure the amount of brain cells I have left? Well, what you'd have to do is... I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor. Oh dear. Don't do it. Don't do it. But if you did, you'd have to take a biopsy of your brain at a number of cells and a specific number of cells, a specific volume of cells, and you divide that by the amount of volume in your actual brain, and then you count the number of cells in that brain, in that part of the brain, and then you multiply it over the entire volume of your brain, and therefore you get a specific number. Except if you took the bit of brain that involves counting stuffs, and then you won't be able to count anymore, and that would kind of defeat the whole purpose of taking a bit out of your brain. Don't take bits out of your brain. Don't take bits out of your brain. Get somebody qualified to do it, and then don't, unless you have like some sort of abnormal cancer growth thing in your brain, and then do take that out. But no, get somebody else to take that out of your brain. Somebody who's qualified to take it out of your brain. Don't let somebody from the early 20th century take an ice pick and a hammer and go whack, 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 and do that. Don't do that. Unless they're qualified, but they're not, because, you know, qualified people don't do lobotomies like, you know, with an ice pick. Last question for the day is a bonus question from last week that I forgot to answer last time. Does Australia have the 4th of July? Well, Australia has a 4th of July, yes, and we normally call it Tuesday, except when it's Wednesday or Friday or Sunday or Thursday or Monday or Saturday, and yeah, and it's not a public holiday. That's because our independence was on a completely different day. We do have an Australia Day, but that's the day that's the day that like British people came to Sydney. And Aboriginals don't like that day because like it was British people coming to Sydney, and British people, like, you know, wreck the joint for, you know, the natives. Generally, they just tend to declare that they own the place because they do, because they've got guns. So but we do have a kind of Independence Day. It's January the 1st, and we have fireworks, but everybody has fireworks on the eve of January 1st, because everybody likes Australia, because we got independent. Well, you know, it was kind of independence, except Britain still owned us, and the Queen of England is still our Queen. God save the Queen and her fascist regime. I can't remember the rest of the song. That's it for Tell It Someone for this week. If you could ask me a question, then ask me a question in the question asking place, not the question answering, asking place below. You could answer the dovetail question, which I've put up conveniently for all you people who want to read it. You could make a video question, not Neil Diamond's song about porcupine pie, though, because it's not a question. It's a statement of fact, or a song, or something. I can't remember the lyrics because I was tired when I watched it and I didn't know what was going on at all. I'm dangerously talented and I don't have a cool sign off.